I talked to former Vice President Pence yesterday about tariffs and their underlying legality, and he offered this comment. I want you to listen to it and then give me your response.
Tariffs are taxes. They're border taxes. I think, as we saw, the trade court unanimously ruled that was not constitutional. It's going to go to the Supreme Court, and I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if they didn't agree with the lower court.
Peter, the former vice president, says they are border taxes and they are not constitutional, and he expects the Supreme Court to nullify them, at least in part, if not in whole.
Well, Mike has lost his way on this. I think he's got amnesia about how successful tariffs were in the first administration, particularly on China, particularly on steel and aluminum. I think Mike Pence forgets also that tariffs weren't a tax at all on the American people. We saw zero inflation because of them. And the reality is, with the Trump tariffs, much or all of the tariff impact is shifted to the producers in countries which are desperate to sell to us, so they bear the burden. What Mike Pence needs to understand is tariffs are actually tax cuts. In this sense, we had $100 billion in just the first 6 months raised in terms of the tariffs. We are going to use that money to help pay for the big, beautiful tax bill, which is a tax cut in its essence. We're going to, over a 10-year period, have trillions of dollars from the tariffs, and that's going to be used for debt reduction and the tax cuts. So I'm not sure what Mike's doing. I really liked Mike when he was inside, but midway through the term, his chief of staff shifted to this guy named Mark Short, who basically took Mike away from the MAGA agenda, the Trump agenda, and we saw what happened. So now Mike's doing media, and we got J.D. Vance in where he used to sit. And this administration, it's hard to not agree that it's booming. I mean, we got inflation going down, growth going up, wages going up. And a lot of that is the tariffs. A lot of that is the strategic energy dominance. I don't know if you know this. This is an interesting statistic. We've had the lowest inflation-adjusted gasoline prices now of any presidential administration in the modern era. It's just extraordinary. They're $3 a gallon when you adjust that for inflation and compare historically. So I'm sorry what happened with Mike Pence. But he's just wrong about everything.
Well, all right. That's comprehensive enough a reply. Peter, you mentioned the $113 billion in tariff revenue collected so far. Who has paid that? You just said all that has been paid entirely by foreign producers?
Yes. So, in fact, the Council of Economic Advisors, which is just across the street there in the old executive office building here in the White House complex, did a report just last week that showed that import prices have actually declined during the Trump first 6 months. So what that tells you is, as the tariffs gone up, import prices have gone down. And it should be very intuitive. The more a country has to sell to America in order to make their economy grow, the more they have to cut prices when we put the tariffs on. They simply are addicted to the American economy. And the problem these critics have, who call tariffs inflationary and tax hikes and all of that, is we now have the history of the first Trump term where we observed, let's put steel and aluminum tariffs in. Everybody warned about inflation, had none. All we had was billions of dollars of new investment, jobs, and rising wages in the steel and aluminum industry. So this is a structural shift for the American people. We're going back to the future, back to the days of Hamilton, McKinley, Jefferson, Lincoln, when tariff revenues actually were the primary source of revenues for the American Republic. It wasn't until 1913 when we went off on this income tax binge. And if you look at Madison, you look at some of the report on manufacturers, it's very clear. We defend our industry so we can be strong and prosperous. And McKinley, one of President Trump's favorite presidents, his slogan in the last campaign he ran for president was, "I'm a tariff man running on a tariff platform." And his economy boomed.
So, Peter, the president said yesterday when the United States, under his signature, sends a country a letter, that essentially is the deal. So are we no longer actively negotiating deals? We're just telling people what the tariff rate's going to be henceforth?
Quite the contrary. What we're doing is, in lieu of them signing a deal with us, we're basically telling what the deal is going to be, but the negotiations are ongoing. Let me give you an example. Indonesia, most people don't know that Indonesia is the fourth largest country in the world. They have been selling us $3 of goods for every one we sell them, patently unfair. We run a $20 billion a year trade deficit with them, and these deficits are national emergency dangerous. We just cut a deal with them. We're keeping a 19% tariff on them. They will have no tariffs or non-tariff barriers on us. They're going to start buying our energy, our agricultural products, things like medical devices, and that's the kind of deal that we can do that still includes tariffs. On the other hand, we've got Japan, South Korea, very reluctant to do what they need to do, which is to play fair with America. I mean, Japan sells us 100 cars for every one we sell them. Why is that? It's because they have these enormous non-tariff barriers. So bottom line is we've got basically tariffs in place, either by letter or by deal, on countries that account for nearly 100% of our entire trade deficit. We got to get that down because it's a national emergency. And we're in a very good place. But to your question, the negotiations are ongoing. They continue. And everything that President Trump will do is on behalf and for the good of the American people.
Last question, Peter, before I let you go.
Sure.
When these deals are done, will any be presented to Congress? Because historically, many have, and that gives the trading partners a sense of permanence about what everyone's agreed to.
These are being done between the president and the countries. Congress is being briefed every step of the way on this. When you have big trade deals like USMCA, like we did in the first term, that's a legislative event. But this is a different breed. People need to understand. The world cheats us. They cheat us with higher tariffs, higher non-tariff barriers. We've sent over $18 trillion in trade deficits over the past decade or so of our wealth, our assets, our jobs, and our factories. President Trump is ending that under the authority of what's called IEPA, and it's well within presidential powers to do that. And again, this is all about protecting American industry and dealing with the national emergency that's called the trade deficit.
Peter Navarro, I appreciate the time. We'll have more conversations in the future, I hope.
I promise you, sir, anytime.